Good evening.
Carolyn,
Good evening.
making you a co-host. Oops.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hi, I
Yes.
can hear you, Matt.
I can't hear you. Can you hear
Hi.
me?
You got a funny name, Matt.
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. Look at us. Success. Oh, do you have a
You're
pen?
I'm gonna rename you to your name. I don't know if you're on somebody else's computer, but I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
can I do
mine.
that for you? Do you mind?
Sure, go ahead. Let's see if I can say it works.
There we go. Better, Marilyn?
Hmm. That makes me feel a lot better. Thank you.
Hey, Courtney,
Hi, Marilyn Lance. How are you?
how are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you
I'm
for
gonna-
being here.
Anytime. I'm going to mute myself until I.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hi, Mitch. How are you? I'm
All
making you
right,
a
good evening, Courtney. How are you this evening?
good, thanks. Are you on there as a co-host?
I don't know. Oh.
I
Stay.
think you are automatically, but I want to make sure everyone feels everyone who's a commissioner is a co-host so you can help.
Okay.
Oops, excuse me, admit people to the waiting room. A spotlight. Seem to have lost some of my hosting abilities. I don't know, Mitch, if you're able to spotlight commissioners.
Okay. I think am I, can you hear me?
I can, but I don't have any of the capabilities I had when I first logged on, so I can't spotlight anyone. And I've lost the ability to admit people into the waiting room. So I don't exactly, I mean, you're listed, I think, as the host here, so I think I've lost the ability to.
Oh, okay, yeah, because
You're logged in on the same login as I am.
okay.
Is there any way you can undo that so that I can, because I can't admit people and I can't spotlight anyone.
Okay, I can leave.
Or you can make me a co-host,
And
make the other commissioners co-hosts, please.
let's see.
I don't really want you to leave, Commissioner Barry. Not what I'm asking for, but I do need to be able to,
Okay, how do I make you co-host?
the 3 blue dots in the upper right-hand corner.
3 dots in the upper. That's somewhat troublesome.
Do we have Commissioner Iglesias on the call yet? Maybe you need to be able to.
I don't have 3 dots at oops.
Mitch, can you log off and log back on again with a different username? Because I can't admit people and we're waiting on Commissioner Iglesias.
Okay.
Thank- Sorry, everyone, I'd like to start, but I'm a
Oh,
little.
okay. I'm
Oh, reclaim host. Sorry, I'm back. Reclaim host. All right, never mind. Sorry, I see it's a bit past 7. We're just want to continue to admit people as they enter, and we're waiting on Commissioner Iglesias.
I'm in.
Oh, you are great. Can you continue to do the admitting and spotlight commissioners and council member for me, please?
Absolutely. I might still need to be made a host.
Oh, I don't see you. Sorry, that's why I hadn't done that.
I'm back on, but
Perfect. I'm good to go.
Okay, thanks so much. I think we fixed it, Mitch. I hope.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry I kicked you guys off. I certainly
Okay.
can't. Remember.
So apologies everybody for a little bit of a late start at 7:02. I'm gonna call the October meeting of ANC3F to order. I'm going to move that we approve the current agenda without objection. And we're going to move to the adoption of the September meeting meeting minutes without objection. If the commissioners have, I assume, have all read carefully the minutes and have not submitted any changes, I move that we approve them.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. Adrian, could you spotlight each of the commissioners so we can see the speakers and so I can remember who to call on, please?
Fair. Yes. 1 second. Let me.
Thank you. Because I'm going to start with commissioner updates, and I'll start with Commissioner David.
Good evening, everyone. The only update I have is the follow-up on the requests for merch. So there seemed to be thinking that well, they have their event coming up October 19th. 12 to 4. There's an issue with having an inflatable, and there was talk of just moving that to the street. But there seemed to be, the only thing is just moving anything to the street isn't easy because it includes MPD, it includes EMS, it includes DDOT. So, and there's application processes, there's no waiver or anything. And it includes having a plan and submitting other information. So working with DDOT, merch, just felt like that wasn't, those two application processes just weren't the best option for them to go through. So that didn't happen. And that's the only update I have is that follow-up from merch.
So just to clarify, it's the Merch Fall Fair, October 19th. So adding on to that, for everyone who's here, I think a lot of whom are members of the merch community. It's just a wonderful community event. Commissioner Hewitt, any updates?
Madam Chair, I have no updates.
Thank you, Commissioner Iglesias.
Nothing too imminent there. Beyond what we're voting on the days in BZA sort of adjustment today, but beyond that, there's no real update. Il Supremo, which is a new Italian restaurant that opened up under the days in, is also considering expanding its hours, but that's something I just found out about and is not really on the horizon, effectively speaking, but food for thought.
Thank you. I'm going to tell you that brought to my desk was just a piece of pizza. So if anybody hasn't eaten tonight is the Jackson Reed Crew fundraiser at Pizza. So if you're still hungry, that would be a great way to support Jackson Reed. Commissioner Slatnick.
I have a statement that I would like to make here. I mourn the death of the child at Connecticut House on Sunday, October the 6th. It is sad that we have no functioning child protective services for our at-risk children in this city.
Thank you. So that does bring us to the beginning of our meeting. And I did want to extend all of our sympathy to the family of DeAndre Pettis. and to the Merch community, particularly his teachers and classmates, and siblings. It's just unacceptable. We also had another small child in this community, Journey Moore, who lost her life just in that same week. So I wanted to just start today immediately. Sorry, I didn't know how upset that would make me to say. I wanted to start immediately with Lieutenant Forrest to give us her update from the MPD. Then we'll go to Councilmember Freeman. And then we will let you know who we have here from the city and open it up to questions from the community. So Lieutenant Forrest, Adrian, can you spotlight her, please?
Yes, let me find Lieutenant Forrest. Oh, perfect. I was wondering if you were in here as Lieutenant Forrest. Or you might not be able to start your video. I don't know if I can spotlight you without it though, Lieutenant Forrest. Let me figure that out.
Can we hear you, Lieutenant? Are you there?
I am. Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you, and that's what's
Okay.
important.
That's okay.
You can
I-
pin her, but you won't be able to spotlight her without her
Perfect.
video.
Thank you, Claudette, or Commissioner David.
Can everybody hear me?
We
Yes,
can.
thank you.
I apologize. I am home, but I still wanted to come on this meeting. So that's why I'm not on video, because I am home. So, but first and foremost, my deepest condolences to both families of those children, because I have a child myself and I can't even begin to imagine, what that feels like to the family of both children that were lost. So I'm going to start by just giving an update, because I know a lot of people were asking about the death of both children. So I'm going to just read what the news release said with regarding to, I know most of you guys already have this, but I know some people do not have it. So I'm just going to read it. It says the Metropolitan Police Department is currently investigating the death of a child in Northwest as a homicide. On Saturday, September 28th, 2024, at approximately 10:49 p.m., officers responded to a residence in the 3700 block of Connecticut Avenue Northwest for the report of a child in cardiac arrest. The child was transported by DC Fire and EMS to an area hospital. After all life-saving measures failed, the child was pronounced dead. The child has been identified as 1-year-old Journey Moore of Upper Marlboro, Maryland. So it says on Sunday, September 29, 2024, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner for the District of Columbia determined the child suffered multiple blunt force injuries and the manner of death was ruled homicide. So that was the first child. And also the other child is still on the investigation. So I know that is still pending, the 5-year-old in the 4500 block of Connecticut Avenue Northwest. So I spoke to homicide today and they told me that it's pending an autopsy for the 5-year-old. So I don't have much detail. I know that we were called to that residence regarding a child also unresponsive. And after all life-saving measures, unfortunately, that baby succumbed to his injuries also. So that being said, I'm going to move on to some of the numbers that we have. So we have one homicide within the last 30 days, and that would be for the 1-year-old Journey Moore. And it's just what I just read. We only have one. We didn't have any last month, so that's why it's up 100%. So even though the number may seem a little high, we have one, which is one too many. We also are up. We're not up. I'm sorry. We're down with everything else. We're down 33% on robberies. We're down 50% on theft from autos. We're down 13% on regular thefts, like store thefts, retail thefts. We're down 39% on, let me see. We're down 39% on regular theft, I'm sorry, and we're down 13% on theft from autos, and motor vehicle thefts, we are down 50%. So even though we are down, we're still working on putting our resources in the places that we need to, because the theft from auto include the wheel thefts also. And I have seen an uptick in wheel thefts. So what we're doing about that, we have our outreach units that's going around to different places and pretty much giving out flyers and actually counseling people on different ways and different measures of how to secure their vehicle. One of the things that I always suggest, and I always make suggestions, and it's really up to you guys individuals if you guys feel that you want to follow that or not. But I always recommend wheel locks on wheels. Even though we are here and we are patrolling, we cannot do it ourselves. So we need the community also to work together with us so we could deter a lot of these things that's happening. So wheel locks are something that I would recommend for a lot of vehicles, because for some reason we're seeing an uptick in all 4 tires being stolen. And like I said, we do have our footbeat officers in those areas, midnights, evenings, daytime. That's pretty much patrolling, but we do need your help also with if you could try doing the wheel locks, not leaving stuff in the cars, stuff like that. We also have seen where even though our numbers are down, we're still working on the thefts, which we do still have a few retail thefts. We have worked with Target with regarding to having theft operation with our CSC unit, and that has been effective in driving down the retail thefts a whole lot. We also had a robbery in the 4800 block of 32nd Street. This was 2 guys riding around the vehicle and saw the citizen and approached the citizen, and the citizen was robbed. And that was in the 4800 block of 32nd Street. We have also increased our special attention in and around that area also with regarding to trying to catch these perpetrators, trying to pretty much minimize all these things that's happening. So if you guys know anything regarding that, or if you guys have any videos, or if you guys know of anybody that have any videos regarding any of these things, we are, we welcome any information that you guys have. We do have a text tip line for those who do not want to pretty much call or whatever. So the text tip line, just in case people do not know, is 50411. If you do want to call in, you could call our CIC at 202-727-9099. And we're going to continue to work, what I pretty much do, I pretty much go on my stats and see where a lot of my crimes are happening and pretty much put my resources in those areas. So if you guys know of an area that is not in my stats because it's not reported, because it's not going to be in the stats if it's not reported. So if you guys are seeing something, an uptick in a certain area, just shoot me an email so I could put resources in those areas. That's all I have right now.
Thank you so much. And just for everyone who's here, Lieutenant Forrest is going to stay to answer any questions and concerns that people are here who may have. And but before we go to questions, I'm going to introduce Councilmember Matt Fruman. I got you here. Councilmember, thank you so much for being here. Oops, you're on mute.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you to everybody who's participating. I guess I will start by also emphasizing that my heart goes out to the families of the children who have been lost. My heart also goes out to the parents and teachers who've had to explain to their 4, 5, 6-year-olds what's happened here. No, it shouldn't happen to any child, and the children in the merch community and other communities that have been exposed to this shouldn't have to be exposed to things like this. It happens all too often in this world, but it's a terrible tragedy every time that it happens. And my heart goes out to those who've been touched by it. The crime report, there is a way in which you can look at the numbers and say that we're making progress on crime. It doesn't feel like that. I mean, it doesn't feel like that this week in ANC3F, where we've had these terrible tragedies and we had a blatant armed robbery during the day on a residential street. There's a lot that we have been trying to do to try to bring crime down, and many of the numbers are down, but boy, we're not anywhere near where we need to be. And I don't think anybody in the city government is sitting on their laurels about all the great accomplishments we've had. This has been a traumatic 2-week period in ANC3F, and we just have to do better. And I'm determined to be a part of trying to do better. A different thing, and I just will touch it for a second, but I think we should, I think the best would be for people to have a chance to ask questions. So I don't want to use up too much time. I happen to be at the Palisades Rec Center where I was scheduled to be in front of their meeting, and I'm going to have to leave at 7:45. So I'll have 25 minutes that I can be here to answer questions. But I think one of the things that people have reacted to in the face of these tragedies is concerns about the voucher program and crime in some of the buildings up and down Connecticut Avenue. Now, we don't know what the source of payment were for the families that are affected by this. But we do know that it's obvious that these families needed services and support in a way that they weren't getting them. And it's also obvious to the people who have followed what's been happening in many of these buildings that there are other families up and down Connecticut Avenue that need more support than they're getting if they're going to succeed. It becomes a very, very tricky conversation because it's a very important program that we get people housed and give people the chance to get up on their feet. For many, many people participating, it works great and they get a new start and they get on their feet, and we should all be proud of it. There are others where with more support, they could succeed. And then there are others who probably are not in a place where independent living is the right answer for them. And sometimes they act out in ways that are menacing to their neighbors and to and we need to have mechanisms to have accountability for that so that everybody living where in their home can feel safe and not feel threatened. And that's a challenge that the city government and the council is working on. We have not answered that mail now. I have too many people in too many buildings who reach out to me and feel that they are not safe and that there's somebody specifically who's threatening them. And that's not tolerable. Lots of things happening to try to be in a better position to address that, but we haven't done it. And we do have people who feel threatened in that sort of a way. And so that's a challenge that we face. I wish I could say that I'd solved it, but we haven't yet. And so I think I'm going to stop there because I think the most important thing is to give folks a chance to say what's on their mind, and then for me, to the extent I can, to try to be responsive to that.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. I want to have Commissioner Hewitt, who's the chair of our housing committee, introduce the other city folks who are here to answer any questions. We'll sort of create somewhat of a panel so the appropriate person can answer your question. And I just want to say quickly, because there are a lot of people here who haven't been here before, and while this is a meeting where we've added people to the agenda, this isn't a reactionary meeting. This is a continuation of a conversation and a dialogue that's been going on since before I was a commissioner. This commission has heard from tenants along Connecticut Avenue who feel unsafe over and over again. We welcome you here, and we welcome you to sit beside us in outrage about this. So I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Hewitt to introduce people who can answer your questions, and then the rest we will turn it immediately over to anyone's questions. Thank you all for being here. Commissioner Hewitt, you're on mute. Maybe I can unmute you.
Thank you. Thank you. I listening to Officer Babbitt read that notice, it really brought it home. And I think it brought it home for a lot of people one way or the other. When it comes to the Housing Committee, and as chair, as Madam Chair Courtney Carlson has mentioned, people have come to us needing help, and we've responded. And so part of the panel who have leaned in, Jason Williamson with the Department of Buildings is in this meeting. I do believe, and unfortunately I'm on my phone, so I can't see participants, but I do believe the Deputy Director of Child and Family Services, the Office of Thriving Families, Deputy Director Ibrahim is on the phone. I'm not absolutely, I can't tell who else is here, and I do apologize. If you are with the DC services and I've reached out to you, if you could let us know that you're, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much for the introduction, and I'm waiting who may be here from DC government.
Thank you. If you want to raise your hand, and Commissioner Iglesias will spotlight you if you need to answer a question. And then I'd like anyone in the community who has a question, if you raise your hand, we will take your question. I ask that because I think there are a lot of people who want to speak, if you try to keep it to a minute. Thank you very much. Adrian, can you better see the picture of who's on here? I see.
I just unmuted somebody whose name I'm not sure. CFSA iOS.
That's myself. My name is Sheriff Dean Ibrahim. I'm here on behalf of the Office of Thriving Families, the Child and Family Service Agency. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. Amy Brodigam.
Let's see here. Amy, I'm trying to unmute you. There we go.
Yes, that is I.
Hi, Amy.
Do I have the floor?
Yes, you do. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Do you have a question? Are you here representing a city?
No, I'm not representing the city. I am a resident of the apartment building just next door to 4500 Connecticut Avenue, where this child died a week ago. This is the first time I've attended an ANC meeting, but I have been in the unfortunate situation of witnessing child abuse in the apartment building next door over at least 3 years, at least 2 families, if not more. I've called 911 many times. I've called Child Protective Services. I have spoken to the managers of the building. I've called the management company of the building. And I have never been able to get any other than 911 who, oh, if you don't have the specific apartment number, we can't do anything. It's been an abject failure, abdication of responsibility and neglect. And I even said to the managers at the front desk next door, you know, if anything happens to this little girl, you know, the blood is on your hands. They moved out. I don't know where they went, and I worry about this little girl this day. So I'm not the only person in next door to the Connecticut house that hears all of this and witnesses it and tries to intervene and tries to affect it. And it's just a systemic failure all around. And I think there's a huge amount of accountability, a lot that can be done. And not just, all the bureaucracy and the systemic issues. I think there are very specific measures that can be taken with respect to specific buildings, their managers, their management companies. And I would like to see something being done along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
If you'd like, I'll respond just a little, because I think I'm sure you want to hear from somebody from the city on this. The 911 and MPD has been the response to the challenges that we've faced on this, and the police are not equipped to be the ones to deal with these kinds of issues. They've actually been quite good, and a lot of praise for the efforts that they've undertaken. A challenge that we confront in this space, and this goes to what I was saying about families that clearly need support and for one reason or another are not getting support. One of the things is folks get a caseworker, but they don't necessarily have to accept the services that the caseworker delivers. And so then you get into a challenge of a family that has real serious issues and they're not willing to accept services. And in my opinion, in a setting like that, they probably should be in a building where there's more supervision and support, but we don't have that kind of spectrum of housing options to meet people where their needs are. We have to, you live next to it for 3 years, you heard it, it pained you, you want to make a positive difference for this young girl. We have to figure out ways to be able to do that. Some of that is increasing the services. Different people have raised ideas of creating a nonprofit in the area that could be sited someplace in the corridor and then be delivering services in a more consistent way. That could be a constructive idea. Placing social workers in different sites is another thing. But what we cannot do is pretend like these aren't serious issues, because they really are, and it's smashed us in the face in the last 10 days.
I just want to interject really quickly that we also had Department of Human Services, and they had committed to send a member of their leadership team to answer our questions, and they informed us about 2 hours ago that they were not going to join us. We asked for a member of the mayor's office. We have Phil Thomas, who's the director of the Mokers. I think it's a disappointment that we don't have more members of city administration here to answer your questions and to speak to this. But this, I think as we've just heard in this very first question, is something that we felt like has been lacking. So I appreciate that the council member is here. And I think, Mr. Ibrahim, do you have your hand up to speak to this?
Yes, I do. Thank you for that opportunity. I think in light of the tragedy and the loss of 2 young people, our agency, we want to uphold our mandate, which is to ensure that we respond and we address any maltreatment, abuse, and neglect concerns or issues that are reported to our hotline. So some of the conversations tonight, that will be something that I will be communicating, speaking directly to my leadership and our director about. But I also want to communicate and share that we are also really putting a lot of energy and a lot of effort on trying to get in front of needs of families and needs of children and needs of our community before it escalates, before it becomes a matter of being overly intrusive and invasive of children and families and how they are being brought up. And it's important to know that we have residents and community members and neighbors that are very concerned of the welfare of all kids, all children, all families. So we have to do some more work on educating all sectors, educating our school officials, educating our partners, whether it's daycare centers and health professionals, anybody that comes into contact with children and families. But we don't want to miss opportunities where we can use different pathways to serve our residents, to serve our community, to serve families, and only look at the Child Protective Services hotline as the only avenue and the only gateway to respond to a need. So, the Child Protective Services agency that I'm a part of, CFSA, and our hotline has a stigma, has a perception that we're trying to improve upon and we're trying to fix, we're trying to correct. And I don't work necessarily directly in these different offices in our agency. I'm more on the community prevention facing side. But I meet regularly with folks within our agency to talk about how we can improve our practice, what we really value in terms of making sure families are thriving. And as the council member mentioned, much of the services, resources that is available in the community, unfortunately, there are times where our residents, our families, and our households not take advantage of it. And I think it's more of a coordination. We say DC system resource rich and coordination poor. It's really more of a coordination of resources and services, making sure it gets to the right households, right families and children. And that's what we're trying to do, is really not be CFSA cannot be the system. We are part of the system. We are part of the solution. And we're trying to make sure that we get out to start educating and really informing our community and our residents about how we are trying to create what we're calling the 211 warm line. And what that warm line is another way for those that have concerns, those that see that, clear evidence of issues that need to be supported and addressed in real time. This is another pathway, right? That you can call.
I'm sorry, can I just pause you there for a second, just because
Yes.
I want to I'm sure you're going to be called on again to answer, because you've showed up here, and so I really appreciate that, but I want to be able to get to some questions, and I'm sure we'll get to you again. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I think the next person with their hand up is Kathy Gibbons. Kathy, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I think
Thank
I'm
you.
unmuted.
Yeah, great.
To Council Member Fruman and Mr. Ibrahim and anybody else from the city who is on. It's my understanding from one of the work days in the neighborhood that Matt and his staff put on, that the entity in the city government that is responsible for making sure that city services, caseworker services are delivered is the Department of Behavioral Health. And I was wondering, it seems as though we have so little factual information, and we live on rumors of people who are eligible for services but don't receive them, and such. The stories go on and on. But I am wondering if there is any reason why we can't audit just who is eligible for services, and who is actually receiving services, and who is, which entities are billing for services, but they are not necessarily making a connection with people. It seems as though we have eliminated many screening features for folks, say, getting vouchers or whatever. And then after that, there's the period when people are living in a property where there are problems. I was told by DBH representative that they don't even look in the files to see if successful meetings are taking place, and unless there is an arrest or some other kind of a problem, they just don't even know it. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know whether that person was talking out of school, but I wonder whether it is the case that DBH has that responsibility. And if so, couldn't we rather readily find out what they know?
Councilmember, can you speak to that? Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, so I mean, we could get kind of aggregate data on that. And Kathy, it's a great suggestion. And we're coming into oversight season where we, put together questions for oversight to be responded to in writing. And so I'm gonna look for a way to include a request for that kind of data. But a challenge that we face is privacy. And so we can get that kind of data at a 10,000 foot level, but as you get more granular, then it's questions of privacy, and that's just a thing we have to deal with. That the challenges of privacy and the challenges of the voluntary nature of the services are part of the issues here that make it that much harder for us to get to the bottom of it. But that's a worthwhile thing to do, and we will do that.
Bonnie Paul. Sorry, thank you. Thank you. I want to just try and get as many people to be able to be heard by you while you have the time, because I know the Palisades community is being generous with.
All good, all good.
Bullets.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so my video is not working, so I apologize. I'd like to say this. I think we have nonprofits in the District of Columbia who have incredible experience in working with families, children, and youth who understand what's going on with a lot of these families, whether they say they need it or not. And I know I have met with Matt, we've had breakfast, and I probably have, and said this, it's not just to him, it's about, we all have to sort of begin to advocate for something. And the issue is that any building that starts to get families that are coming in, even single adults, there should be a social service support in there if that building is deemed a place where there are going to be sort of an increasing number of vouchers. It's not accusing anybody of anything. It's saying that we understand that this is a new space, it's a new way, it's a new atmosphere. There's lots of things that are going on. There's school connections, there's understanding so much about what's going on. And so I've been trying to really sort of talk to folks about this idea of really, how do we increase the budgets for nonprofits that have the ability to do this? We can't say we're going to expand every government agency, but just like Friendship House is running the family shelter over on Idaho Avenue, that's a model to look at for the buildings, for private buildings, and where people can be supported, but they need social service support. We can do it. I think it has to be that finding them, and that those nonprofits' budgets are going to have to be increased to get the staff in and to be supervising them. But it's possible, and it's something that I just think we have to do, and sort of thinking it just can't be. It's the government contracting, but it doesn't have to be government employees. And I think we can get more of that to support these families and adults.
Hey, thanks. That's a really good point. Thank you. I'm going to just go straight to the next question. Because I think you raise a point that that we should follow up on. Megan?
Hi, good afternoon. One of my concerns is not just, I understand that we're all different people and parent differently and speak to our children differently. The concern that I have is the lack of follow through with the city by the police services, and more importantly, the management companies that run the buildings where these issues take place. I don't care how you pay your rent, but if you're a voucher holder, you're bound by the same rules and regulations that I am. I'm paying $3,000 or close to it. I should be entitled to just as much of the respect and decency, comfort and convenience of living here that you should. To have a number of lease violations that the management company is aware of and has failed to do anything to counteract for nearly 2 years is ridiculous. Moving isn't always necessarily an option for the person who's making the complaints or concerns noted, but it's uncomfortable. I know that there's a kid who's being abused, but even if they're not at that moment, there's domestic violence that they're having to witness and be a part of, that I am having to witness and be a part of, even though I'm not in the unit. It's constant, literally constant, every day, all day, and nothing is done. We need to make not just the tenants in the city accountable, but we need to make the management companies accountable because they're taking this free money from the city, from the voucher programs, and just washing their hands of it. Like, hey,
Thank-
we've got occupied units, we're getting rent. Yay, that's all we care about.
Council member, will you speak to that? Because that's something you've been working on, I know.
So, and to Bonnie's point, 100% to Bonnie's point, we got to get creative about ways to be supporting people. And that is sort of the positive side on this of, there are people who need help and we need to figure out realistic ways to get them help, just even in a setting where the services are voluntary and folks are spread around different buildings, but we need to do that. What Megan brings up is sort of the negative accountability side, and nobody wants to be, pro eviction, but there has to be accountability for lease violations, and there has not been. And some of that, there may have been a period where the landlords were getting high rents and they were happy with the high rents and they didn't care about the lease violations. And there could have been and has in some places been elements of that. But there are other problems, which is it is very, very difficult to hold a tenant accountable in the District of Columbia. And many of the people on this call are tenants and they like that. But the pendulum swung too far. And so there are also landlords who think, I'm never going to succeed at evicting this person for for a lease violation. And so there's no point to it, or it's going to take years to achieve it. And there are settings where the management company actually has come around and is doing the right thing, where there's a tenant who's threatening another tenant and they're seeking to have that person moved out of that building. They're doing, in my opinion, the difficult but right thing. And they've been at it for 2 years and they haven't been able to succeed. And we need to have a level of accountability. There's a lot of people standing in line who need help with housing. Housing is the giant challenge that we face. And when you have people who are in the tent and who are behaving in ways that are menacing to their neighbors, we got to make room for somebody else who's going to play by the rules. And that's not where we're at right now. And folks are focusing on this in a number of different ways in the city government, but it's a change that we need to bring, as painful as it is. I hate to say it, but this is a conversation that is so important and merits a much longer back and forth. And I wish I could do that. I can't do it tonight. I do need to go now. I and my office are available, and if there's another meeting that devotes more time to the topic, we want to participate. But for now, I apologize that I need to go to this other meeting.
Council member, our ANC internally has agreed to have a special meeting on housing October the 28th. What it was a day we could all do it, so we will check with your office, make sure you're available. And we hope that, and this is not an end to anyone's comments, but I know the council member has to leave. But we plan to continue this conversation as we have been having this conversation. And we will make sure we find a date when you can be present. And thank you for dividing your time tonight. And we hope that the representatives from the city who we had implored to come here tonight will be there at that date as
So
well.
October
Thank you very much.
28th, October 28th works for me. Send a calendar invite so that we get it on the schedule.
Great. Thanks
See
a
you
lot.
later.
Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
And I'm so sorry, Ms. Marshall, that you don't have our council member to answer your question, but we're looking forward to hearing to what you say nonetheless. We do have Phil Thomas here from the mayor's office. we had asked the mayor's office to send a representative, and they have. So I'm so sorry, Phil, that we don't have you spotlighted. We do still also have Lieutenant Forrest here who can answer questions. The ANC isn't really, we want to have this conversation, but I'm sorry that we didn't get representation from the city to better discuss this. So I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Okay. I, as a tenant who lives on the third floor of the Connecticut House, who also is in the rapid rehousing system, the permanent supportive housing, community partnerships, the TANF. I hear what everyone is saying about support and the families aren't taking the support, but you all there isn't any support. It doesn't actually exist. They're not actually giving us caseworkers. Then they're giving us community partnerships, and that community partnership worker changes 7 times in a period of 3.5 months. And so I don't think that, we all have a realistic understanding or a true understanding of how that system works. Even anyone who receives TANF is supposed to have a caseworker, a plan. They're supposed to work with that caseworker to put a plan in place for how they're going to be able to sustain themselves. Same thing with rapid rehousing. And I don't know who my caseworker is for either one of those systems. So, and I'm in school. So I beg, I doubt that my neighbors know either, much more than I do. And perhaps, unfortunately, the people who I would really like to talk to would be DHS. They're not here.
They canceled 2 hours ago. I'm so sorry that they're not here. I really am.
But as far as I know, that we're all neighbors to each other. And I hope that we all, I guess, at least want to speak to the fact that no, we don't have caseworkers. No, we're not refusing to help. They don't exist.
Thank you so much for telling us that. Thank you. And thank you for being here. I wish I had a better person to speak to you, and I hope you can be with us on October 28th. And I really thank you so much.
And we really are the only ones who appreciate hearing that. I know many.
Sorry, yeah, please go ahead.
I just know many neighbors right around me who I'm sure they're glad to know this, because I feel like that's part of the strong opinions, is that people don't know what's going on.
Thanks. Thanks. And we'll be in touch with you, and please come on October 28th. And I hope we have the people here who can speak to you, because that deserves to be heard. Cal?
Yeah, this is just very quick. When you were asking who from the city was here, I heard someone mention the name. I thought it was Jason Williamson, who put up his hand. And at that moment, you called upon the first questioner. And so he's actually here on the call.
Oh, from Department of Buildings. He is here. He is here as well. And, I'll actually have Commissioner Hewitt now. And I'm sorry, actually, thank you for bringing that up, because that's really my mistake, because Commissioner Hewitt and I had discussed that she would talk about her conversations with Mr. Williamson that she had over the summer, and Mr. Williamson's inspection of Connecticut House. Commissioner Hewitt, go ahead, please. Thank you, Cal. And I apologize for the oversight. Thank you, Mr. Williamson, for being here.
Thank you so much for that intro and the conversation. Mr. Williamson, thank you so much for your time, for being here. And for the audience, I hope that you make it continual to come to ANC meetings. I know it takes time. It takes time for us as well. We do lots of prep for it, but to be able to lean in. That last speaker, she spoke volumes, because that is one of the components that's missing. There is a lack of support, and there is a misnomer amongst those who may not receive support that there are all of these services available. They are on in paper. So, but Mr. Williamson, I'm going to stick a pin in that. Mr. Williamson, I cannot thank you enough for the conversations, and for the audience. We've had many conversations trying to figure out how to move forward with issues where tenants, such as the young lady who just spoke, came to our ANC meeting 3 months in a row, explicitly describing the environment that they are raising. Small and older children, seniors are trying to thrive and get their kids to school and get to work and live the life that they want to live and grow their kids. But it's a building that as the Department of Buildings was able to unearth, that nest of rodents and mice and all sorts of things. But there is a breakdown in the process of how inspections are carried out. It's not the individuals. Mr. Williamson and his team and the lead inspector for the Department of Housing, boy, they leaned in. They were present. They want to do what's best for the buildings, for who they represent in their jobs. And I'm going to stop right there. And Mr. Williamson, I give you the floor. I want to say thank you as you speak. Is there anything you'd like to share? And if or
I guess that not particularly. I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Jason Williamson. I'm an account manager in the Office of the Director with the Department of Buildings. Commissioner Hewitt is speaking to meetings that we had in June, and then an inspection that we coordinated in July with Department of Buildings inspectors, as well as inspectors from the Department of Health. And one of the things, and I don't want to kind of jump around here, but one of the things that she's speaking to and that we've had conversations about is that our processes are all very well meaning, meaning that we try to make it very easy for residents to report housing code violations, and I guess if we have some time, later I can, kind of show you, but, there are links to all of our services, from reporting housing code violations to reporting vacant buildings to reporting illegal construction. Some of the things that some of the residents have reported to me, or some of the problems with that, is that, as a matter of course, we tell the property owner, hey, we're coming to inspect X, Y, or Z problem with your building or with your house. And one of the complaints that Commissioner Hewitt had communicated to me was that the buildings by and large would kind of put a Band-Aid on the problem, because they're expecting an inspection, but they wouldn't fully abate it. And then so we inspect and say, hey, there's no violation, things look good. And then, it's back to business as usual. One of and some of the residents suspected that our inspectors were colluding with the property management, and I can tell you, at least as far as I know, that's not the case. But, one of the problems is our enforcement is designed to get the property owners to come into compliance. Part of it, most of the violations also carry with them, the citations carry with them a fine. And those, once the case has been adjudicated through the Office of Administrative Hearings, then, people who are in violation will also be responsible for a fine. But by and large, we would rather you fix the broken pipe, or you call the exterminator for the rodents, or you fix the crack in the wall, than to pay the fine. Of course, the city, I'm sure, this is above my pay grade, but the city, I'm sure, wants the revenue, but where our main focus or concern is to use our enforcement tools to try to get people to come into compliance and actually fix the problems that their residents are calling about. So when we call and not call, when we send out any kind of communication to the property manager to say, hey, this is, we're coming on this date to inspect this. That's, we want them to fix the problem. I think the issue has been that in the past, property managers have, like I said, not fully abated the problems, kind of put a bandage, over the problem temporarily, and then, months later, tenants call and they're still having the same issues. So that's something that's been, brought to the attention of our leadership. I know Commissioner Hewitt actually, I believe is scheduling a meeting with Keith Parsons, who was he was in charge of our civil infractions division. And these are some of the things that I believe we can kind of change or tweak, because they're not, some are a matter of law, and then some things that we do are a matter of process and policy. So I don't want to continue to talk and talk your ears off, but if you have any questions for me about the process, any processes dealing with Department of Buildings, I'm here, so feel free to ask me.
Thank you for being here. Harry, you're muted.
Here we go. First, I want to say to Mr. Williamson from DOB, thank you. Department of Buildings has been good for our building in doing a full building inspection because we had so many problems. So DOB has been a good partner on that. And when people call, they get out, and particularly the inspector, Oscar Cuellar, who was fantastic for us. So I would encourage people, if they have problems in their buildings, to call DOB. But we got from one topic to another one, and I think that the main focus that we started on was building security. And I had a practical question for Sergeant Forrest, or I think Sergeant or Lieutenant, I'm not sure.
Lieutenant.
Okay, may have given you a promotion, I'm not sure. But last night, I'm told that there was a stabbing at 3003. I believe a stabbing at 3003 Van Ness. And if that's true, that would be the third stabbing at least that I know about. But could you confirm whether or not that is true, that there was a stabbing, and can you provide any information about that stabbing?
Lieutenant, you may be muted. Here she is. Lieutenant, we can't hear you, but it doesn't look up. You were unmuted and now muted. There you go. Now you're unmuted. But we can't hear you. I'm really willing your little black box to be able to speak here. I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Pardon me, while we're waiting for her to get a shot, let me just say something else, and we'll see if she jumps back on. I appreciate the position that ANC3F is
Can
in
anybody
here.
hear me?
Here we
There
go.
you go. There you go. Welcome back. Thank you.
Okay, so everybody sounds a little low. I hope everybody can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, so 3003 Van Ness, that was domestic in nature. It was actually a stabbing, domestic related. There was an arrest on that, so it wasn't anything that the general public had to be concerned with. It was private and domestic in nature, and an arrest was made.
So this is an answer that I'm always confused by, and I think most of our tenants are not satisfied with. You can't hear me?
You're coming in very, very low. Hold
You're
on.
coming in just fine for me, Harry. So I'm inclined to say Lieutenant Forrest's audio might be giving you a little hard time, given since you were struggling to get in earlier.
Let me just make my point, Adrian. Maybe you can repeat it for me. But I'll say residents are not satisfied usually to know that there is a stabbing that is domestic in nature, because we feel for the person who's getting stabbed, but we also worry when we get in the elevator that the person who just stabbed somebody else is going to stab us or someone else we know. So I'm not sure why that, it's domestic in nature is a good answer. And I just think it's really important for information about these things to get out to the buildings, because we've experienced a lot of changes in recent years, and they're quite serious in nature.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Because I'm not hearing everybody quite well. Okay, so if you can hear me, domestic in nature, what I'm trying to say is it happened within an apartment unit. So I'm not saying it's not serious. It's 100% serious. Anything that happens, what I'm trying to say is it's not a direct threat to the general population, to the general public around you. So when I say domestic in nature, you and your significant other, or something can be happening that's significant to you in your apartment. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming out, someone is shooting, someone is running down the street. It was contained to that residence. So when I say domestic in nature, I'm not trying to downplay it as though it's nothing, because to me, any crime is important. It doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter, what your status is. Every single person, life is important. So don't take it as
Thanks.
though I'm saying that it's not important. It is very important. Domestic just means that it's within that unit.
Thanks for that clarification. I did send a note today to Lieutenant Vandermeer asking for more information. I know he's got a lot of stuff going on, but I think people in the building would like to know more. And I'd like to make one other comment on a related issue, and then I'll let my time go, Courtney. And that is, I appreciate the situation that ANC3F is in here, because the issues that we've talked about security in the apartment buildings and condo buildings up and down Connecticut Avenue, we've been talking about now for several years, at least 3 years when I've been doing it, and 5 years from other people talking about these issues. And we talked to the mayor personally in June, I just looked it up, June 2022. We told her all about these problems, and we said, people are going to get hurt. This is bad. A lot of people are getting dumped in these buildings without resources. Some who are very troubled in some situations are not getting help on the ground. Very high number of people in certain apartment buildings, hundreds of people in some places or in small areas. This is a problem. And she said, oh, I don't know anything about that, which I didn't find very convincing. And then she said she'd look into it and then didn't do much, to tell you the truth. And for the last 2 years, I've sent her a lot of information about this and talked to many of the department heads and whatnot. And so I would say, from the position of people who live in the area, we need the mayor to come out herself to a meeting like this. I mean, it's not, I see that Phil jumped on here. And I appreciate you being here, Phil, but it's not enough for Phil to come. It has to be department heads and the mayor to come and explain to people, what is your policy? And how did we get to where we are now? What are you actually doing? There are things that have been done by this administration that have never been explained to the public. So we're all in the dark trying to guess what it is, right? And now you're seeing a lot of problems that are affecting people of all sorts that are here. And there's a lot of concern in the community, and we're just getting no information from the administration on this. And basically told that we're imagining situations. But when you see things like kids getting killed and people getting stabbed, it's just about enough. And it's time for the administration to show up at a meeting like this in force at the highest level, to tell people what their policies are and what they're going to do to protect the public and to protect the people they're supposed to be serving. And we haven't had that. And it's been several years that we've gone on like this. And I would just ask you, as members of the ANC, to press the administration to show up, because these are policies that didn't start with ANC3F by any means, or anybody on this call. It goes right to the top. It is the Bowser administration, it's DCHA, and they need to show up and explain to people what they're doing and how they're going to keep everyone safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. And Phil, do you want to speak to this? I will say, as I'm now a broken record, but we invited people to show up and they didn't. And I wrote an email saying I thought it was disrespectful.
Yeah, I wasn't,
You're late to the, I mean, you're
yeah,
showing
I
up.
wasn't, so I
But
didn't,
we did
I wasn't
speak to
part of
your
those
colleague.
emails.
Yeah.
So I don't really know, I don't know who you contacted, from, the Department of Health and Human Services. And I don't know what representative you were looking for from the mayor's office as well. So if you can include me on those emails going forward, I can definitely follow up with you on that. Again, my name is Phil Thomas. I'm the director of the mayor's office of communications and services. I've been with the mayor for about 8 years now. And I can attest that the mayor is aware of this issue. As she she heard about it about a couple years ago. She has spoken with Laura Zeilinger, the director. But I do agree with her that that she shouldn't be invited going forward to see if she come. You can invite the mayor at mayor.dc.gov, and it says
October 28th. Yeah.
yeah, you can schedule, you can get her to come out and speak. But I definitely I can attest that the mayor is aware of this issue, as I've spoken to her about it previously. So she knows what is going on. Her directors know what's going on as well. But I do agree that she should come out and she should get him.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. Commissioner Slatnick.
I find it interesting that the police, when something is a domestic abuse, a stabbing in an apartment, or a child dying of child abuse in an apartment, just say it's contained in the unit, and so therefore just write a report. That to me sounds rather callous.
So, if I could answer to that, I'm not saying we're just writing a report. We are going to investigate and we are going to go through all the channels. When a child is involved, we always, all the time, that's one of the things that we do every single time. If we go to a domestic call and a child is involved, the people that we're calling, we're calling Child and Family Services. We're making notification, and we're also making notification to or youth division. So even though we're saying it's domestic in nature and we're writing a report, it's not just a report. We are investigating, and we're investigating thoroughly. We may not be the persons that's investigating, but that report is being forwarded to the correct channel to further investigate. And also the officers on scene, they're calling Child and Family Services while they're there. They're also calling youth division, and if it's a domestic, we are also referring people to OCAP so that they can get additional resources. So even though we are saying it's domestic and it's contained, that just means that it is with regarding to that family, but we are making the proper notification that needs to be made. We're not just doing a report, just to clarify.
Commissioner Hewitt.
Thank you. This is all phenomenal and good. And I would like to also just add that with our inspections to buildings and actually Mr. Williamson's inspections of buildings, and this is about pulling at strings. An inspection is no different than how a public-private partnership should work, because it's not always about laws, it's about understanding the process and how to pull it apart so you can better address it. And in addition to having directors and the mayor here, which is absolutely vital, I don't want it to be understood or that rats and mice are just sort of like, oh, that's just it in the corner. It's about a process. And this morning was the first breakthrough with OAG responding. It's phenomenal. There's this serious possibility we can make this better, not just for Connecticut House, but for the city as a whole. But it applies to again, private partner relationships, so landlords and the city, how we are able to protect individuals in buildings, therefore protecting the environment. It also goes further with how do we figure out pulling at more strings to get NGOs, to get nonprofits to help where maybe DOD is just stretched too thin. So I just want to
Thanks, Terry. I want to get to Amy Shostheim and Marilyn Lance. Amy.
Yes, Lieutenant, I have a real problem with saying something is domestic in nature when, you hear somebody outside an apartment door and saying, I've got a gun or a knife, and the people around feel they can't go out in the hall. Now, I didn't want to come tonight because I had to leave Connecticut House for my safety. And nobody listened to me. There are people with mental health or addictions issues who aren't ready to live independently. And my neighbor threatened my life because I had the audacity, after many sleepless nights, to ask the front desk to have him to lower his noise. And he went to it, then he took a hammer to the security guard and said, if you ever knock on my door again, I'm gonna kill you with this hammer. And the judge, the evictions judge, let him stay. And then somebody, not me, reported him to the Humane Society because he had left a dog in there. And on my birthday at 11:30 at night, he starts during our common bedroom wall, threatening me through. So the judge let him go stay. But I wasn't safe. After he threatened my life, I had to ask people to help me go. I couldn't walk to the trash chute without feeling scared. I had to ask friends to walk with me for my dog. I couldn't answer the doorbell anymore. And so domestic in nature, contained in that apartment, that doesn't mean anything to me, because we're all part of a village. And what the city is also not recognizing is that there are certain people who, because of some mental health challenges or addictions, and I'm not talking about the families, I'm talking about the people putting it on permanent supportive housing measures, who aren't ready to live independently yet. They're threatening people. They're threatening to kill people. And I had to leave my home of 32 years because I didn't want to end up a statistic. So people are being put in there who aren't ready to live independently. And the whole idea of something being domestic in nature, that's just bullshit, because it's not contained in the apartment. When you hear somebody screaming in your next door, or you hear somebody outside the door saying, if you don't let me in, I'm going to shoot through this. It's just not satisfactory to me. And I never wanted to leave my wonderful apartment, but I had to because I feared for my life. And this is the last 3F meeting I will come to, but you gotta realize that people are, some of us have been threatened with our lives, and nobody's doing anything about it.
So
Amy, we really appreciate your being here, Lieutenant Forrest. Amy's spoken to this a lot of times and not been heard.
So I hear her, and like this is I'm being on here and talking to you guys. Apart from the introduction, if you're being threatened, and if someone is threatening you, that's when you call the police. We are never going to not come. We're always going to come, especially if you're being threatened. No matter how, we're going to come. So that's one thing I must say. Since I've been on the department at 2D, officers always show up. Anything, especially stuff that's going on, we're always going to show up. However, I think we're kind of, when I say domestic in nature, people are confusing, just thinking that I'm just blowing it off. When I'm saying domestic in nature, I'm saying it's intra-family. It's something between two people that's in that apartment. So when I say domestic in nature, I'm saying with, for instance, like a mom and a dad, they're fighting. Or that's what I'm saying when I'm saying domestic in nature. It's an intra-family offense. It's not a threat to somebody else across the hallway. It's not a threat to somebody downstairs. It's violence among family member or people that's living together. So just to clarify, I know everybody is running with the domestic in nature. Maybe I should use a different term. I'm just saying that it's stuff that's happening within that apartment between two people. Something that's happening with somebody outside being threatened, well, that is not domestic in nature, of course. I'm just talking about stuff that's going on between two people that's in an apartment that's probably fighting. I don't know if that clarifies, but to your point, anytime anybody on this forum or anybody at all feel threatened or are being threatened by anybody, 911 is the number to call. We
You're
are
not gonna call 911 if you're afraid that the neighbor is gonna stay next door to you and kill you. If you know that the person isn't gonna be removed, why would you call 911 and get them all jacked up again? I don't, and it's just not satisfactory to say it's contained in one apartment.
I'm not talking.
I don't know. I'm just emotional because I never wanted to leave my home. But I really have a problem with the idea that, why would I call 911 and when I know somebody isn't going to be evicted and then I'm in more danger. So 911 is not really the answer.
The only way, man, we're going to show up is if someone calls 911. If someone calls 911 saying that they're in danger, if you do not let us know what's going on, if you do not report it, then we don't know. You could always get a stay away order from the person, and especially if they have a stay away order, especially if they threatened you. If we come and they're within a certain amount of feet, once it's court ordered, we can arrest that person. But we have to start somewhere. We cannot just say we're not calling. That's the only way we're going to have that step forward for the police to do something. We cannot just go ahead and do something to somebody or try to arrest somebody based off, someone is not telling us what's going on because we wouldn't know. We don't patrol the always of the building. We go into these buildings once we're called. So even I would just really suggest that 911 is the best way. And after you get your report, you can always get a stay away order. So at least we can enforce the law.
Amy, thank you for being here. And thank you for speaking to this on so many other occasions. I'm going to go to Marilyn Lance and we're just going to take a couple more because we are going to have another meeting on this on October 28th. And I do hope that those of you who want to speak will have a more robust city audience for what you have to say. But let's go to Marilyn, please, the Brandy one.
Before you move on, I just want to say that I am having a community walk on Saturday. Anyone wants to show up, we can speak, in depth and detail on other topics. We're starting at 10 o'clock in front of 3003 Van Ness. So anybody wants to show up and want to further discuss certain things, I'm there for that also.
That's the 19th of October in front of 3003 Van Ness. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn Lance. Marilyn, you got to unmute.
Might be able to see
There we
this.
go. Hi, I'm sorry, it said I couldn't. This is a question I probably should have directed maybe to council member, but my question, and I'm hoping that Mr. Thomas will take this back to the mayor. Both Amy and Fruman mentioned this evening about some people perhaps cannot or are not at the point in their life where they can live independently. And I think we have some of that in some of the buildings, especially and in my building, I know we do. If that is the case, Mr. Thomas, perhaps you can ask the mayor and the other departments, what plans do they have, or what plans are they working on to do a better job of identifying those people who perhaps can't live independently, that are now living in the apartments, and what you're going to do to make it better, not only for them, but for other residents also, because I mean, I know what Amy, or a person like Amy, went through, and it is just not a good position to be in. So I think the mayor, the city, the departments under her owe us some type of plans or action where they're going to resolve some of these issues, so that we're not at the point now where children are being killed. And that's my question or my comment. Thank you.
Phil, do you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Ms. Marilyn. So just to read back your question, and I talk to DHS I have a meeting, I have a standalone meeting with DHS every week and the mayor. That your question is, what are the plans that they are working on or are having in place for people who can't live independently? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, is there going to be some different type of vetting? Are they going to, I keep hearing that, I think her name was Kobe, said that they don't even have the services that everybody thinks that they have. If that's the case, there's some people that need those services, and you guys got to step up to that.
I'll actually find out the answer and I'll send it to Chairman Carlson, and she'll send it to you as well.
Okay, thanks. Kovis, do you want to follow up, since Marilyn just spoke to an issue that you had said? I know you have your hand up again.
I can't agree with you more. Like, there are neighbors that I think, to Mr. Thomas, I think what she is specifically asking is what methods are in place to vet out and determine accurately whether or not someone is in a position to be able to live alone.
I think at this point, there's also some self-certification.
And then in addition to that, I mean, just to speak to Lieutenant Forrest, I know that everyone seems to feel like, well, that's not a good enough answer. These are things that are domestic. Miss Schushenheim's experience, that is god awful. That is a separate, that's another individual upon another. But I got an email that it made me extremely uncomfortable. The email was disseminated amongst 10 or 12 different people about this child's family down the hall. An arrest record was sent out. Nobody's sending arrest records of when a pedophile moves in my neighborhood. I certainly don't need to know the name of this father when this father has the same name as this child. These children go to school with my child. So just because people feel uninformed, I wasn't uninformed. I live on the 3rd floor. I heard that woman screaming. So it's appalling to me that sometimes the level of information or what we're expecting to know in detail may not necessarily, that doesn't actually concern us. I mean, knowing that something happened, knowing that the police handled the matter, knowing that they are staying on top of it, that's what concerns me. Knowing the details and nitty gritties of who was fighting whom and what were they fighting about, that really doesn't have anything to do with me, nor does it have anything to do with any of us as neighbors. And if we kind of stay out of that area and just stick to the important part, which is, I don't want to hear you screaming from the other side of the wall, because I don't know if I should call the police. Is this just, you guys are just fighting again, or is somebody going to die tonight? Like, those are the things that we should be concerned with, not, I don't know how else to express that, but I
give
feel
it
like
to us
it
really
creates a
well.
divide, and it makes it very difficult for us to get anything resolved because we get so caught up in the minutia of what's going on behind people's wall. I don't live in 308 or 305. I live in 306. So unless it's happening in the hallway, and not that I'm not concerned, I'm concerned. I just think that we have to find a line between what is actually regarded as our safety, an issue of safety, and an issue of nosiness. And that's important, I think.
Thanks. Your perspective has been really helpful, along with Amy and Marilyn and so many others. We have 2 more hands up. We are going to have another meeting on this, but Megan, and then if you want to go quickly, and I think you've already spoken.
I did already speak, so I'll go quickly. Just 2 things. I had a situation where I was physically threatened by an unauthorized occupant. It was witnessed by 2 people. The police were called, a report was made, nothing is done. I can't get a stay away order because I don't know said person's name. I can't go to management because, again, he's an unauthorized occupant. I've had housing issues, code violations. I've reported them to the city before and experienced a very severe lack of actual concern. And I get it. There's a lot of buildings and there's a lot of issues, but this kind of ties back to the fact of there's got to be accountability and there has to be more to be done. I'm better off going to file a case against my landlord through the court in order to have my rent reduced from having to live in substandard conditions. So I truly understand where Kermesse is coming from. I've lived it, I've seen it, I still live it, even though I wouldn't expect to. But again, it's different. People have totally different perspectives, but they're all very valuable. And I think that people need to open their eyes and say, oh, geez, we're doing that. We're calling the police, we're making the reports, and still nothing is done. I still have to live below the person who threatened me. I still have to live in the same building and feel extremely uncomfortable every single day. And nothing is done.
Lieutenant. Thanks, Megan. Thank you again so much for your perspective. I don't know if Lieutenant Forrest can comment.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was good. So also before I answer that, I know someone left a chat in a chat, but I could not respond to the chat for whatever reason. Where the community walk is going to be, it's going to be 3003 Van Ness in the front and starting at 10 o'clock on Saturday. I wasn't able to put in the chat. I was trying to, however, to answer this question, if someone is threatening you, call us. Even if you do not know the name of the person and you could direct us to where the person is, call us. We will go and we will, and if you see the person, say for instance, the person threatening you and make a report and there's a second sighting, you don't need to approach this person. All you have to do is like, call us, listen, there was a report done, here's the person is in this color clothing, whatever it may be, whatever kind of description that you could give to us so we could go out and find this person. You do not have to know this person's name. All you have to do is call us. Call us and we will show up and we will do our due diligence. And once we make an arrest or whatever, like I said, there's always an option for a stay away order. That way, if the person even come a certain, a certain area within you or whatever, you could call this right away and that person will be locked up. So it's not that you should be a victim. You should never be a victim. You should always call us. There should be no reason why anybody should feel threatened by anybody. Everyone deserves, I don't care your religion, your creed, I don't care your social status. There should be no reason why anybody feel unsafe because of another person threatening or doing anything of that nature. I cannot stress enough. Call us. We are going to show up. We're going to come. Even and back to the other statement. If you hear somebody screaming, call us. That's something suspicious. We're going to come and we're going to follow up. Even if you don't know that it's a legitimate thing, you don't have to know that it's a legitimate thing. once you have an idea or you have a sneaky suspicion that this is going on, that's why we always say, if you see something, say something. If you hear something, say something. There's always an anonymous phone call that you can make. You do not have to be interviewed. You can always send a text tip. If you hear something going on and you don't want to be associated with it, you can always text anonymously. We are going to show up.
Thanks. Janelle, and Janelle is an ANC commissioner from our adjacent ANC, I believe, where Cedric Gardens is located. Is that right, Janelle? Janelle, you're muted.
Yep, I just got the permission to unmute. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I am the chair of ANC3C, so Cleveland Park, Woodley Park, and that would include Cedric Gardens, and we do have other similar overlapping issues. So I apologize for lurking on your meeting. However,
you're welcome. You're absolutely welcome.
This is I think our commission share responsibilities here in working together to make things better for everyone here. So what I have done, and what I'm recommending to ANC3C, council is responsible for the oversight of the agencies, and that's why I've recommended that ANC3C, along hopefully with your ANC, and I know I see colleagues from 34G on here too, that we either send a letter or resolution calling on the committees that oversee the relevant agencies responsible. Here, those relevant committees would be the Committee on Housing and the Committee on Facility and Family Services, that they call an oversight hearing specific to the relevant agencies before the budget season starts. That's soon. So this would be the productive and official route in addressing these issues with these agencies. We're seeing this play out with the Office of Unified Communications 911 system now, as Councilmember Pinto has now called for regular oversight hearings. And that was largely as a result of sign-on letters from the ANCs throughout the city. And the latest one was as a result of the 5-month-old that was a resident of my SMD that died in August. So the oversight hearings and the council allow public witnesses and government witnesses to testify, and a record and report is produced, something that doesn't happen when we just have these meetings on an ANC meeting agenda. So I'm hoping that you all would join with us in putting that either a letter or resolution together. And I'm also happy, if you're willing to entertain us, to join as a joint ANC meeting on your 28th meeting.
Absolutely. Please. The more the merrier. I think, like I said at the beginning, in order to wrap this up, and thank you so much, Janelle, and members of ANC34G for being here. You know, please sit down next to us and join our outrage. We need all these voices. Thank you so much for everyone for participating in this conversation. And we will continue this on the 28th and look forward to working with our adjacent ANCs. Thank you, and we're going to move along. I know we're going to move along because we do have other issues that we need to address, and we are having another meeting on this. So thank you very much to everybody who participated in this conversation. We're actually, while we have a lot of people here, we're going to do two things. One, talk quickly about the Albemarle Street closure, and then we'd really like for you to meet the candidates who will be representing you in our next term with ANC3F, who are running to represent you. So I hope that some of you will stay to hear your neighbors speak to their desire to be on this commission. So I want to just quickly go to Commissioner Bear on the Albemarle Street and 32nd Street work, because I think a lot of people also are impacted by that and impacted by the traffic in the neighborhood that's resulted from that. So let's hear quickly from Commissioner Bear, and DC Water, please.
Okay, I don't know who's on the call with DC Water, but you will have 2 minutes to speak, and when you get there to 2 minutes, I'm going to cut you off completely. There are two major issues that we have been dealing with for months. One is the schedule for the work at Albemarle and 32nd Street. And second is the confusion and the continuing congestion, traffic congestion in the neighborhood with people speeding and running stop signs and not understanding the detour signs. We need a meeting separate from this one to talk about the traffic problem, but we really need to know tonight what the schedule is for when the work will start on Albemarle on 32nd. So you've got 120 seconds, go.
110, someone unmute, come on.
I'm not quite sure who I'm looking for, or I'd ask them to unmute.
Come on, DC Water.
Oh, wait, I see somebody talk. Sammy, I see you talking. Are you DC Water?
No,
No.
Jarrell, here's
This Peter.
Peter.
How you doing? Emmanuel.
Couldn't unmute. It said the host had the mute button locked. So really, well, go ahead, Peter. Did you want to speak?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So really quickly, where we are now, we're still investigating options for the shoring support for the excavation of the manhole. As it relates to a schedule, there currently isn't a schedule developed. Our engineers are just reviewing some of the recommendations now. And once we kind of make a final decision and have a schedule going forward, well, we'll definitely let you know. Our
And
team
Jared-
did add some additional signage on Davenport Street. We hope it kind of helped on Davenport as well as Brandywine. We hope it helped alleviate some of the confusion in the area.
Okay,
and that's
Jared-
much where we are right now.
Terrell, I'm going to stop you because you've had all enough time. Okay, I want to have a meeting with you and Peter and Emmanuel within the next 2 weeks to talk about the traffic. And I'm going to close. Chair Carlson, you can move on to the next issue.
Yeah, I'll move on to the next issue, but I do want to let the community know that we had asked DC Water to post some, not just signs, but people to help measure the traffic that I have witnessed. It's just people racing through to try and get around this detour. It's really unsafe for students walking to school, and they've told us that they cannot do that. So this is one of the things we're going to speak to with Commissioner Bear this week. Thank you so much for continuing that, not at 9 o'clock at night. So I'm going to jump ahead to the 2024 3F candidates. So let's start with Sue Guzman. Sue,
Hi,
you're unmuted.
I think I'm unmuted now. Thank you. Yes, so thank you, Commissioner Carlson. I'm Sue Guzman. I am a almost 15-year resident of the Forest Hills neighborhood. And I must say, after all of the seriousness of the really grave seriousness of the issues that we discussed at the beginning of this meeting, I feel a little uncomfortable talking about myself, but this meeting has completely reinforced why I want to represent 3F02. And I have always thought that the greatest change occurs when we leverage our greatest resource, which is people and the community members. And I was very heartened and encouraged by the voices that spoke out today. I specifically felt like Ms. Lance, Ms. Marshall, Megan, people directly affected, Amy, that we can, that by working together, that we can make efforts towards resolution. And I think that I have patterned my life after coalition building, advocacy, partnership. I worked tirelessly for many years at Murch Elementary as a parent volunteer, served at the head of the HSA. I also served on the local school advisory team. And I've also served as a member of the former Forest Hills Playground Association. And I feel like I know a lot of the issues, including not just public safety, but traffic safety. I live on Davenport Street, which is turned into a major thoroughfare to Connecticut Avenue because of the closure of Beach Drive and now the Albemarle closure. And so I thank you for listening, and I'm sorry I kind of sound disjointed, but I do feel a little comfortable.
I put you in a really hard spot, Sue.
No,
I
no,
really want
I
to
mean-
thank you for being in this position. Sue is running in for 3F02. Terry Hewitt is not running again, and we are all sad to hear that because her leadership has been tremendous, and we know will continue. And Sue, we look forward to working with you. And I'm sure Terry will give you all the inside scoop.
I hope so. I think I would need it. But thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I'm going to Sammy Thumba.
Good evening. Good evening, neighbors.
I is running for Marilyn Slotnick is also not running for re-election, and there are two candidates running to fill her seat, Sammy Thumba and Amy Rothman. So I'm sorry, Sammy, thank you for being here, and please go ahead.
Good evening, neighbors. I'm Sammy Thumba. The H is silent in my name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Sorry, it's okay. So before I begin, I'd like to take a moment to express my deepest condolences to the family of the 5-year-old and the 1-year-old that and the loss of the young lives at Connecticut House and Sidwell Gardens. It's a tragedy that affects us all, and our thoughts are with the families during this difficult time. I'm honored to speak to you tonight about my candidacy for ANC3F01. My family moved here just a year ago, and I've fallen in love with the community and from the friends that we've made at Merge, but also the people that we meet on the street or on the playground or while playing tennis at Forest Hill. And like I said, I'm a parent of 2 daughters at Merch Elementary, and we deeply invested, myself and my wife, into the school at Merch as room parents, but also helping for the fall fair. And apart from that, I understand also the issues that business owners have in the area, and bringing up serving patrons, but also maintaining a safe environment for everybody around. I'm a new resident to this area, but I want to bring fresh ideas and on long-standing issues, and also respect the history of the community. And my priority are also, again, pedestrian safety, especially for the kids walking to school, but also advocating for accessible community spaces, supporting all the local businesses, and preserving and enhancing the unique character of this neighborhood. It can be things like addressing concern about people smoking marijuana near the public spaces like the Forest Hill playground or the tennis court while families are playing tennis, and make sure that we ensure that all the areas remain family friendly. And those are my priorities, but I also want to participate in these meetings and hear the concerns of the community and see how we can find solutions together. And I think that we can achieve those things by working all together. And I'll be delighted to represent you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sammy, so much. And we are lucky to have two people who want this position. And the other one is Amy Rothman. Amy.
Hi, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Great. Hello, everyone. I'm Amy Rothman, and I'm running as a write-in candidate for ANC3F01. So that is from Connecticut House to Parker House on Connecticut, and then houses behind. So I too would like to express my deepest condolences and sorrow to all in our community who are experiencing these profound losses and experiences discussed early. I'd also like to thank the commissioners for holding today's very important discussion about the tragedies. And thank you also for hosting the candidates, and greetings to Sammy. It's wonderful to meet you and listen to all the neighbors who care about this community. So I've lived in 3F for about 20 years. I'm a longtime volunteer in the community. I was part of a group of people who revived the Friends of Forest Hills Playground organization about a decade ago, or more than a decade ago. I served many years on the board of that organization and was cleanup crew at the park for many, many, many times. I spent countless hours volunteering at Merch, Deal, Jackson Reed over the years. I have children who've attended each. I've been a longtime volunteer with the Humane Rescue Alliance, caring for animals. More recently, I've been volunteering with the Van Ness Main Street at the pop-up market and the pollinator gardens. And professionally, I've dedicated my career to public service, mostly in the sphere of human rights and children's rights. One of my proudest accomplishments was leading a State Department-funded project under the U.S.-Jamaica Child Protection Compact. We established child-friendly spaces around Jamaica where children could report crimes and obtain services. I was inspired to run for ANC after tuning in to the positive work of our current ANC members, and also by the important remarks just now by Ms. Marshall and others. I've seen how the commissioners have really made tangible accomplishments to improve our community, from streets and sidewalks, helping our schools fix the budget shortfalls, and ensuring the marijuana shops are regulated. I'd like to continue and expand this important work, drawing on my volunteer and professional experience, including in child protection. And most recently, I've gotten involved with the ANC3F Streets and Sidewalks Committee, partnering with the chair of the committee, Paul Harrison, and my current commissioner, Marilyn, who's resigning, to gather community ideas on traffic calming on Reno, as well as ideas for the mini park at Reno and Warren Streets. But I recognize that safety and accountability issues discussed this evening are paramount. And I would love the opportunity to serve the residents of Connecticut House, like Ms. Marshall, and other neighboring buildings like Amy, who spoke very early on in the meeting, as well as the houses and other residents of 3F01. If you'd like to vote for me, you must spell out my name. It's a little bit strange, Amy, ROF1F, like Frank, MAN on the ballot as I'm write-in. And feel free to contact me at amyrothman@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Amy. And in 3F05, current Commissioner Adrian Iglesias is being challenged on the ballot by Nate Bowman. I have tried to contact Mr. Bowman. I don't think he's here. I've emailed him several times, as have others, and he has not responded. But nonetheless, even though he is not here to speak for himself, Adrian was appointed midterm after a resignation. So I'd love to give you the opportunity, Adrian, to talk about your candidacy and your time so far on the commission. We've enjoyed having you.
Yes, for sure. I will keep it brief for the sake of moving forward and keeping the night earlier than not. Yeah,
That's a great qualification for being a commissioner, Adrian.
no meetings after 7 p.m. Just kidding. If only. Yeah, I think maybe what I will say is what I've enjoyed most in the brief time, which I didn't anticipate being such a huge part of this, is sort of functioning as a little bit of a connective tissue for the neighborhood. I feel like such a large part of this job is really kind of just helping guide neighbors to the appropriate resources, or to at least the resources that'll help them advocate for themselves and for the neighborhood as best possible. And I've really enjoyed kind of finding out a little bit more about the inner workings of that and how it can help people. But I've lived now in Van Ness, right behind Redfirst, for about 10 years. And yeah, much like other people have already said, um, clearly a lot of the big issues on everyone's minds are things like traffic safety and just sort of local safety in general. And then for our little strip of Van Ness, keeping our businesses, or at least our commercial properties, filled with businesses that would actually want to bring people to our neighborhood, make it more of a community. But yeah, I really would just love the opportunity to keep having a little more agency and helping our neighborhood develop itself and continue to be a nice little intersection of green space and city life that it currently is. And helping everyone be keen to resources like these ANC meetings, or just simple things like emailing your local MPD representatives, things like that.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Adrian. So I think we're lucky that we have a great group of people who will serve with us in our next terms. Moving along, is Paul Harrison here from Streets and Sidewalks? So I did.
So he was.
Hi, Paul. I see him.
Unmuted.
We're very disjointed here. Sorry, in
No
terms
worries.
of the
I'm
order of
unmuted now.
agenda, but thank you for being here. And I know we have a lot to report from Streets and Sidewalks, but do it fast.
Yes, so I'll keep it super quick. Some of us have mentioned we did have a well-populated turnout meeting to discuss what we can do with the newly closed off area on 36th, Reno and Warren. Folks had lots of great suggestions, a lot of continuing interest on what we can do to improve the crossability and safety of Reno Road. But I think the big takeaway from the new space is that we should look to the same kinds of improvements that the Parks and Rec have done up by Georgetown Day School and on River Road, just south of the entrance to the garage for Target. There's a couple of small parks that they've really improved, so people would like to have it be more park-like. Other key thing folks should be aware of is, as mentioned last time, DDOT will be doing sidewalk construction in the community next year. And they have started reaching out to the community to inform property owners nearby, and we'll be in the neighborhood to look at the specific designs of those sidewalks. They've gotten a lot better at working with the Department of Forestry so they don't damage or otherwise hurt particularly big, beautiful trees. So keep an eye out for more on that as well. So I think those are the highlights. We will be going back and continuing to work with Commissioner David and others to push forward DDOT to take a hard look at Reno Road. Some folks reminded me that Reno Road actually back in the 80s was had reversible lanes like we just got rid of in Connecticut Avenue. So Reno Road has been getting safer over time, but we all know we can do a lot more on it. So stay tuned. And as always, I will put my email in the chat if folks want to join the Streets and Sidewalks Committee.
Thanks. And I will say, since Kathy Sykes is on the call, that her name was invoked. And for people who aren't often on this call, Kathy Sykes is responsible for the beautiful plantings along Connecticut Avenue. And that is a great part of what's making our neighborhood and Streets and Sidewalks beautiful and home to pollinators and all the things. So thanks, Kathy.
Okay, moving on. Marilyn, do you have a schools and universities report? Up.
I have a very short one. I attended Sheridan School Zoom meeting, and their construction schedule is such that the construction fencing will go up during Christmas vacation. Most of the stuff will be done on the interior during that time, but there will be that construction fencing that will impact parking and so on. And then the actual outside work won't begin until June to August, when the kids are out of school. That's it.
Great, thank you. That's so good to know. So we'll know when that happens, what's happening. Juanita Gray, are you here? Hey, Juanita. Thanks for hanging in. Adrian, can you unmute her?
I've asked to unmute. There we go.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Go for it. Yep, we gotcha.
And I always stay for the whole meeting. I like to know what's going on. First, the university would like to offer our sincere condolences to the families of the young children that were taken from us. Any death is tragic, but when it's young children like that, it just hits a little differently. Madam Chair, for the sake of time, if you can open up the chat, I can just put my notes because I just have updates on some of the retail spaces. I can just put the notes in the chat.
That would be really helpful. Adrian, are you able to do that just for Juanita?
And then if anyone has questions, I'll also put my email in the chat so you can email me.
One quick second.
I think the question of du jour while we're waiting is twofold. One would be just quickie on moms and
Sure.
then archives.
Sure. For moms, the new elevator work is ongoing, interior work is ongoing, and the garage parking prep, which is cleaning, painting, stripping, is all ongoing. Mom's exterior signage has been approved by the Commission of Fine Arts, and it's currently under permit review. And then archives, I don't have any updates on the archives. I do know that we have fencing up. There's been a lot of signage that has gone up. I am having my community campus task force meeting on November 7th via Zoom or via WebEx. And we will have the archives there at that meeting. So if anyone would like to have any questions, please feel free to come to that meeting. I will send out information to the ANC and to the community tomorrow, actually.
Great. Thank you. And thanks. It's really thoughtful of you to put the rest of your info in the chat where I know a lot of people want to know. I don't think Gloria Garcia is here. So I would just open it quickly if there are any other announcements from the community, which would not be sort of comments on what we've already spoken about. But if anybody has an announcement that they'd like to, or an issue other than something other than what's been on the agenda that they'd like to bring up, we'd be happy to hear from you at this point. I'm gonna see if Adrian, Kathy Sykes. Hold on, we're gonna get you unmuted. There you go.
It's just quick. It's just, this is going to be the last weekend for the community planting. There'll be opportunities next spring because I do it twice a year and this is year 5. I want to thank the ANC for helping funding this activity in the neighborhood too. We've had great turnout, but Saturday and Sunday, 2 to 4, we're going to be first at the Calvert-Woodley area. And then on Sunday from 2 to 4, we'll be at the old Walgreens. So everyone's welcome. Just shoot me an email, sykeskathy@yahoo.com.
Kathy, I know I'm telling everyone I have to go fast, but I just want to, can you just tell everybody about leaving, not having cut down once flowers are done blooming, especially natives? Can you just explain, like some people think it doesn't look great.
Right.
I'm
So
sorry about that, but please tell us.
Sure, for the environment and for all the little critters, the pollinators that are at great risk. And we need pollinators because they are responsible for pollinating the food 1 out of 3 bites that we take. So to save our little critters that help with the birds and the bees and the creation of fruits and nuts and so forth, we need to give them a winter space. So by leaving the leaves, we enrich the soil, we keep all the water runoff during heavy storms when we have that. I know we've had drought, but we keep the moisture in with the leaves too. So leaving the leaves as much as possible. And the stems of the plants are actually where these little critters winter over. So I know it looks messy, but if you keep it neat around the edges, it's still very manageable, and it actually helps save what we're really targeting to do to improve the environment. And again, the critters are essential. If we didn't have them, we wouldn't have food. Is that quick enough?
Yeah, no, it's great. Once I learned that, I felt differently about the tree boxes. So if you're stepping around something or wondering why it's still there when it's not blooming, now you know why it's helping. Thanks, Kathy, for everything. We're going to move on to Shane Detman and the Days Inn parking garage zoning adjustment. We're looking for you, Shane.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. How are you?
Hi, thank you for being here again. Do you want to just give us a brief 2 minutes on for people who are here who weren't here last time, this is an issue that we heard from Shane last month on this issue, and we are here to vote on it tonight. We've been given the information we need, but if you could give everyone just a couple minutes for the new folks.
Sure, and it would be helpful. Can I just bring up a map of the site just so we know kind of?
Oh, yeah, please. I think you should be able to share your screen.
Not yet, it's disabled.
Now you should be able to.
Okay, yep, there we go.
There we go.
Open up the file. There we go. Looking for how to share a window. And I can't find it. Okay, well,
Sorry, it's so hard when it's not working.
I'll just share I think this will work here.
Okay.
Share my
There you go.
screen, and then if I bring this up, can everybody see that?
Yes, we'll try not to read
Okay.
emails or whatever.
Okay, this is the slide deck that I showed last month, and I'll just keep it here. So
I just see your folders. Do you want to double click that? Or I just see your folder, your list of folders.
Okay.
Maybe it was just the wrong window.
I have the screen on. For some reason I can't. Oh wait, how about this? Does that work?
Yep.
You're good to
Okay,
go.
you just see the slide now?
Yep.
We see it, yes.
Okay, all right, so the site that we're concerned about in this BZ application is the Days Inn site at 4400 Connecticut Avenue. And then really what we're focused on is the garage lot. As I mentioned last month, the hotel and the related parking garage on the other side of the alley were both constructed in 1963. The garage received a use variance just to have a parking garage in a low density residential zone. And then there was a second area of relief approved by the BZA in 1963 to allow the required parking for the hotel to be located off-site in the garage. And back then, under the zoning regulations that were in effect, when you got that kind of relief in order to do off-site parking, you had to record a covenant that basically required the parking in the garage to always be accessory to the hotel. It could not be open to commuters or anything like that. So fast forward to today, what the request that the hotel ownership is seeking from the BZA is two things. Ultimately, what they want to do is they want to clear title for the garage lot in order to position the site for a future sale when the market is more favorable. In order to do that, we have to extinguish the parking covenant that's recorded on the garage lot. So in order to do that, we have to request a special exception to reduce the number of required parking for the hotel. Back when the hotel was built, the minimum parking requirement was somewhere between 70 and 80 spaces. Under the current regulations, that requirement would be 34. And then that could be further reduced to 17 spaces because of the proximity to Metro, which didn't exist when the hotel was constructed. So we're requesting a special exception to reduce the required number of parking for the hotel down to 41 spaces. And that's what can be accommodated on the site. And then secondly, we're requesting to amend the condition of the 1960s BZA order to allow us to extinguish the covenant that's recorded on the property. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions I wasn't able to address in my summary.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? And are there any questions from people in the community? Or does anybody need any clarification about the issue at hand? Okay, so I'm going to move that we vote to approve the zoning adjustment. Oh, I'm sorry. Carol, when it moved from screen sharing, I didn't see your hand. Excuse me.
It's okay, thank you. I was just wanting to see Juanita Gray's summary in the chat.
Adrian, and we'll work with Juanita to make sure it gets up there.
Okay,
Apologies for that. I think I think the chat was not on.
Sorry, I've gone ahead and unrestricted it again, Juanita. If you'd like to put that in the chat, you're good to go.
Yeah, I wanted to see her contact information and just see the summary.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for pointing out that that wasn't there because I don't think we'd seen that. Thank you. And Carol Newell.
Be able to unmute now. There we go.
Thank you. I would ask Mr. Detman, who is we that is asking for this? Is it the ANC or is it some other entity? Thank you.
Shane, you're currently muted. You should be able to.
Thank you. Thank you, Juanita. The applicant for the BZA application is the current owner of the hotel, who also owns the parking garage lot on the other side of the alley. That was my reference to we, meaning the applicant that I represent.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner, this is Juanita. I am having trouble with my desktop, so I'm transferring over to my laptop to try to send the notes. I'm not sure what's happening. But
Juanita, do you want to email me and I can put it in the chat, or email Adrian?
Sure.
Even better than me. Email Adrian.
Okay, I'll do that. That's easier. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for making sure that gets there. Paul?
Paul, give me a second and I can unmute you if you haven't already found your way there.
I got it, I think.
All right.
Paul?
Oh, no, I just muted him. I'm so sorry, Paul. Silence.
Sorry, real quick on the parking garage, it's kind of falling apart. As part of this, do you guys have plans to better maintain the existing structure until something goes in its place?
Shane, we can't hear you.
Should be good.
Thank you. It was telling me that I couldn't unmute myself. Thank you, Paul. So the garage is at the end of its useful life and is having some maintenance issues. The ownership recently did put in some work to make sure that it is structurally stable and usable for the remaining time that it is in existence. Like I said, we're doing this in order to allow the owner to clean up title. The current owner intends to use the parking garage for so long as it owns the garage for its current use. After we get to clean up title, and if we're able to convey the site to a future owner, it would be up to them to decide what they want to do with the site. The garage is there by a use variance, and so if the garage gets torn down, then the underlying zoning, low density residential zoning, would be what the property would have to be redeveloped with.
Thank you. Carol, do you have another question, or is your hand up from before?
I have another comment. Thank you. So a subsequent owner of that lot could put a 6-story apartment building on it, couldn't they?
Only, I will just cut in because this is one of the few things I at least understand clearly from this. If and when they wanted to build something like that, they would have to have it rezoned, and that would be another process involving the ANC and the community's input before they're able to do that.
Thank you.
And Shane, do you want to just to build on that question, because I think it's a good one. Last month when we discussed this, we talked a little bit about the both of those areas and why you were looking for the zoning on the parking lot versus that side front area. So if you want to speak to that, I think people might appreciate that.
Sure. So under the current zoning is R1B, which is low density residential. So if you wanted to redevelop that site, it would be basically standalone detached homes. However many you could fit on there, it's probably 1, possibly 2. Back in 2021, the comprehensive plan future land use map, which is not zoning, but the comprehensive plan future land use map was changed for the garage site to medium density residential. And so if the future owner wanted to do something different than single family zoning, they would have to seek some sort of zoning action. It could be a map amendment, or it could be a plan unit development. But as Commissioner Iglesias said, that is an entirely different zoning process in order to rezone the site to be consistent with that comprehensive plan medium density residential designation. Medium density residential could be a 6-story apartment building, but again, it's an entirely different process that would have to come forward and before the ANC and then ultimately go and get approved by the zoning commission. Commissioner Carlson, did that answer the question?
That answered my question. Carol, I think it's a really good question. Do you feel like you got an answer?
Yes, I was answered. Thank you.
Thanks. And does anybody else want to have a question or need clarification on this issue? If not, I'm going to move that we vote to approve the days in parking garage zoning adjustment. And all in
Second.
favor? Oh, thank you. Thank you for the Robert's Rules of Order correction there. Thank you for seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think that the motion, the parking days in parking zoning adjustment passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Shane, for being so thorough, for being willing to answer our questions, and staying on this slate. To that end, I'm gonna ask in my attempt to do Robert's Rules of Orders on this, if commissioners will agree to table the consideration of the resolutions that are on the agenda until next month, because it is clearly past my bedtime because I'm not really able to put together a sense anymore. Does anyone object to that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you. I think we would be able to have a better conversation at an earlier hour. These are two great and interesting resolutions written by our colleagues in 3-4G. Cal.
I just want to say I'm from 3-4G, and the ANC is going to consider and possibly vote on those resolutions this coming Monday, the 21st. So I just wanted to know about the timing of that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I discussed this with Zach Ferguson, who authored the resolutions, and he had said that it was okay for us to discuss it this month, and which we were going to do when we had time. And obviously, the circumstances changed. So I think that's why I was thinking it would be okay to table it to next month after they've discussed, and if they want to make any adjustments, then we can learn from their discussion. Moving on to our last issue of commission business, Mitchell, Commissioner Bear.
I move that the commission approve the QFR submission that I've distributed to you about 10 days ago for the fourth quarter of 2024.
I second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous.
Okay,
Thank you.
now, one other thing, Courtney, please. I need the minutes, the draft minutes for this meeting to be able to submit to the ANC by the end of this month. So Terry, if you could ask Rachel or work with her to have those draft minutes to me by the maybe a week before the last day of this month, so I can submit it on time along with all the other paperwork I need so that we continue to get our allotments from the ANC office. Thank you.
Thank you
One
so
quick
much.
last thing, feel free to shelve me further. I just want to, Karen, I see you with your hand up. Karen's tried to get her hand in to say something X amount of
Did I
time.
not see you during community announcements?
We keep having bad timing with Karen, I think, but I see you, Karen, and I know we want just want to give a moment to Karen to speak if it's something.
thank you very much. I wanted to know, for one thing, who actually owns Days Inn. And I also tried to get a question in. I couldn't quite figure out how to get the yellow hand to appear. In the previous discussion about the children who were killed, I just think it would help a lot if the DC Council reconsidered the legislation they just made permanent that allows all voucher applicants to self-certify that they're eligible. Whereas once upon a time, there used to be a screening mechanism that sort of would catch people maybe who aren't quite ready to live independently. But I'll hold that for the next meeting you're going to have on that subject. Just wanted to get that out there. But who owns the Days Inn?
So Shane and Karen, I do know that we've talked to, that's been a something that I think Councilmember Freeman is working on, the self-certification. Shane, can you speak to the ownership?
Sure. The owner name is, it's a limited partnership. It's called Van Ness Limited Partnership. The entities behind the limited partnership, I'm not aware of who they are. I'm not privy to that information. But the applicant for the VZ application is Van Ness Limited Partnership.
So there are others behind that.
I suspect that there are. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Baird, did you have anything else in terms of commission business?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm going to move to adjourn the meeting. Before I do, I just want to thank everyone for coming. I'd like to remind everyone that this commission will be holding a special meeting on the topic of housing on October 28th, and we will provide the details on how we will hold that meeting, whether it be Zoom, hybrid, or in person. And we will try and give you as much detail as early as we can on the city officials who will be there to answer your questions and to speak to the issues that were spoken to today. And I just really can't thank all of you enough for taking your time to join in on this discussion.
How would you reach everybody? Like, would I get an email? How could you reach me?
Well, I think what we typically do is the same way that you found out how to access this Zoom. would likely be either on a listserv that you are a member of, or an email list that you are a member of. By the same way that you found this is how you will find that information. We'll try and put it broadly in the Forest Hills Connection, in the listserv.
Forest Hills.
Yeah, the Forest Hills Connection is a great partner in terms of if anyone doesn't read it, it's a great way to find information about our neighborhood. And then thanks to Chair Janelle Bagatz and the commissioners, including Lisa Gore, who were here, and her other colleagues from 3-4G who were here. It does sound like we're going to have a nice partnership together with them to move forward and really exert the the influence of the three ANCs together, which will make a really big impact. So now I'm going to move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor. You can even raise your hand if you're not a commissioner. You can be in favor of adjourning this meeting. Thank you, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you again and continuing this discussion on October 28th. Thanks.
Good night, everybody.
Right.
Night. Thank you.
Thanks.
Night.